Listen to me. This message is not for everybody. It's not for people who want comfort. It's not for people who want easy answers. This is for people who are tired of lying to themselves. Because the truth is, most people don't lack talent. They lack honesty. Honesty about how hard they're really working. Honesty about how serious they really are. Honesty about whether they truly want change, or just like the idea of it. See, everybody loves the idea of success, but very few people love the requirements of success. Because success demands structure. Success demands sacrifice. Success demands discipline on days when motivation doesn't even show up. And that's where most people break. They keep waiting to feel ready. They keep waiting to feel inspired. They keep waiting for the right moment. Let me tell you something you don't want to hear. The right moment doesn't come. You create it. And if you keep waiting, life will keep moving without you. Time doesn't negotiate. Time doesn't explain itself. Time doesn't care how much potential you have. Time only responds to action. And right now, your actions are telling a story. Not your words. Not your dreams. Your actions. Look at your routine. That's your real mindset. Look at how you spend your evenings. That's your real priority. Look at what you do when no one is watching. That's your real character. And if you don't like what you see, good. Because awareness is the beginning of change. But awareness without discipline turns into frustration. You start feeling stuck. You start feeling behind. You start feeling angry, not at the world, but at yourself. And instead of fixing the problem, most people numb it. They distract themselves. They scroll. They complain. They blame. But blame never built anything. Responsibility does. The moment you take full responsibility for where you are, you take control of where you're going. No more excuses. No more stories. No more if only. Just ownership. And ownership is heavy because now you can't hide anymore. You can't say, it's because of my past. It's because of people. It's because of circumstances. No, now it's on you. And that pressure, that's not a burden. That's power. Because disciplined people don't wait for permission. They move. They don't wait for confidence. They build it through action. Confidence is not something you feel. It's something you earn. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when it's hard, confidence grows. Every time you quit, confidence dies a little. And over time, that gap becomes your life. That's why discipline is not optional. It's foundational. Without discipline, motivation becomes noise. You get excited, then you disappear. You start, then you stop. You promise yourself change, then you repeat the same cycle. And cycles only break when standards rise. You don't need a new year. You don't need a new plan. You need new standards. Standards for how you wake up. Standards for how you work. Standards for how you speak to yourself. Because the voice in your head is shaping your future. If that voice is weak, your actions will be weak. If that voice negotiates, your discipline will negotiate. Strong people have strong inner conversations. They don't beg themselves. They command themselves. They don't say, I'll try. They say, I will. And then they back it up. Not once. Not when it feels good. Every day. That's the difference. See, this journey will expose you. It will expose your patience, your consistency, your emotional control. You will have days where you do everything right, and nothing seems to move. Those days are dangerous, because those are the days where quitting feels logical. But logic without vision leads to average, and average is expensive. It costs you time. It costs you self-respect. It costs you the life you could have lived. The scariest thing in the world is not failing. It's knowing you could have done more and choosing not to. That pain stays. So if you feel pressure right now, good. Pressure means life is demanding more from you, and life only demands more from people it knows are capable. You're not behind. You're being prepared, but preparation requires endurance. You don't get strong in comfort. You get strong in resistance. That's why discipline hurts. That's why growth is lonely. That's why the process feels unfair. Because it's separating you from excuses, separating you from average thinking, separating you from people who quit early. And separation is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. You can't build a new life while holding on to old habits. Something has to go, and that decision That letting go, that's where the new you begins. Not when you feel ready, not when it's perfect, but when you decide you've had enough of staying the same. That decision changes everything. Listen to me very carefully. This is the part of the journey where excuses start sounding intelligent. This is where your mind becomes creative, not in solutions, but in reasons to slow down. You've already started. You've already committed. You've already told yourself, this time is different. And now life is watching to see if you meant it, or if you were just emotional. Because emotions don't build discipline. Habits do. And habits are built when nobody is cheering for you. See, people love the start. The beginning feels powerful. The energy is high. But the middle? The middle is silent. No applause. No validation. No instant reward. Just repetition. And repetition exposes character. This is where people don't quit suddenly. They fade. They wake up a little later. They work a little less focused. They skip just one day. And one day becomes a pattern. Let me be honest with you. Most people don't fail because they stop trying. They fail because they stop expecting more from themselves. They lower the standard so they can stay comfortable. But comfort is not neutral. Comfort is dangerous. Comfort doesn't scream. It whispers. It says, you've done enough. You deserve rest. You can continue tomorrow. And tomorrow keeps moving. You don't notice the damage immediately. That's why comfort wins so often. But discipline? Discipline feels heavy right away. It demands structure. It demands sacrifice. It demands consistency when you're tired. That's why discipline feels unfair. But unfair doesn't mean wrong. Growth has never been fair. The people who rise are the ones who accept that. Life doesn't owe them ease. They stop asking, why is this so hard? And start asking, what is this trying to build in me? Because everything hard is shaping something. Your patience, your focus, your emotional control. And emotional control is what separates grown people from reactive people. Reactive people let feelings decide. Disciplined people let standards decide. And standards don't change based on mood. That's maturity. Let me tell you something powerful. Your environment will test you. The people around you will test you. Not because they hate you, but because growth makes others uncomfortable. When you start waking up earlier, working harder, talking less, complaining less, some people will feel exposed. And instead of changing themselves, they'll question you. They'll say you're doing too much. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're obsessed. Let them talk. Because the same people will ask for advice later when they see the results. But by then, you won't need their approval. Because discipline builds self-respect. And self-respect is quiet confidence. You don't announce it. You don't demand it. You carry yourself differently. You stop explaining your grind. You stop defending your choices. Because disciplined people don't argue with undisciplined opinions. They stay focused. Focus is rare. Most people are distracted. They start one thing, then jump to another. They confuse movement with progress. But progress requires direction. And direction comes from clarity. You have to know what matters. Not everything deserves your energy. Not everyone deserves your attention. If you give your energy everywhere, you'll have nothing left for what actually builds your future. That's why discipline includes saying no. No to distractions. No to comfort. No to unnecessary conversations. No to habits that don't serve you. And saying no will make you feel lonely at first. But loneliness with purpose is better than company without direction. Because being around people who don't challenge you will slowly lower your standards. And once standards drop, everything drops. Your effort, your expectations, your results. That's why elite people protect their mindset aggressively. They are careful about what they consume, what they listen to, who they allow access to them. Because your mind is the control center. Feed it excuses, you get weakness. Feed it discipline, you get strength. And strength is built in the moments you don't want to show up, but do it anyway. That's where identity is formed. Not in big wins, not in highlight moments, but in quiet obedience to your own standards. You don't become disciplined overnight. You become disciplined by keeping promises to yourself. Small promises, daily promises. Wake up on time. Do the work. Finish what you start. Every kept promise builds trust. And when you trust yourself, you stop seeking validation from the world. That's freedom. Freedom from opinions. Freedom from comparison. Freedom from constantly proving yourself. Because now you know who you are. And when you know who you are, you move differently. You don't rush success. You don't chase shortcuts. You respect the process. Because the process is what prepares you for the weight of success. Success without discipline creates stress. Success with discipline creates stability. That's why so many people collapse. When things finally work, they never built the structure to hold what they prayed for. You're building that structure now, even if it doesn't feel like it. Every hard day, every boring routine, every lonely grind, it's all adding up. But only if you don't quit. And quitting rarely looks dramatic. It looks like inconsistency. So watch your patterns, because patterns become habits. Habits become identity. Identity becomes destiny. And destiny doesn't change by motivation alone. It changes by discipline applied daily. So stay alert, not to the world, but to yourself. Because the biggest threat to your future is not failure. It's getting comfortable with less than you're capable of. Listen to me. This is the moment where there is no confusion left. No excuses. No emotional stories. No pretending. At this point, you already know the truth. You know what you should be doing. You know where you've been cutting corners. You know what discipline looks like in your life. The only question now is not what. It's will you do it? Because knowing is cheap. Everybody knows. Knowing doesn't change your life. Execution does. And execution requires one thing. Most people avoid full ownership. Not partial. Not when it's easy. Not when someone is watching. Full ownership of your time. Ownership of your habits. Ownership of your future. No more blaming the past. No more blaming people. No more blaming circumstances. Those things may have shaped you, but they don't get to control you. At some point, you have to stop explaining your pain and start building strength from it. Because pain without discipline turns into bitterness. Pain with discipline turns into power. And power is what happens when you stop asking life to be fair and start demanding more from yourself. This is the level where motivation is irrelevant. You don't wake up asking, do I feel like it? You wake up knowing, this is who I am. That shift from feeling-based living to identity-based living changes everything. You stop negotiating. You stop delaying. You stop making deals with yourself. You do the work, because that's what disciplined people do. And discipline is not something you switch on. It's something you live. Let me tell you something real. The world does not reward intentions. It rewards results. You can mean well and still end up average. You can have good intentions and still waste years. Life doesn't grade effort. It grades consistency. That's why this stage feels heavy. Because now you can't hide behind effort stories. You either did it or you didn't. And disciplined people don't make excuses for outcomes. They adjust. They study themselves. They ask hard questions like, where am I being lazy? Where am I avoiding discomfort? Where am I lying to myself? And those questions hurt, but avoidance hurts longer. See, at this level, you stop trying to look disciplined, and you become disciplined. No announcements. No social media declarations. Just work. Quiet. Focused. Relentless. And that kind of work changes your posture. You walk differently. You speak less. You listen more. Because when you're locked in, noise becomes irrelevant. You don't need everyone to understand your journey. You need to stay committed to it. Let people misunderstand you. Let them doubt you. Let them underestimate you. You're not building for applause. You're building for results. And results speak a language everyone understands. But here's the part nobody prepares you for. As you grow, you will outgrow people. Not because you think you're better, but because your standards changed. Your conversations change. Your priorities change. Your tolerance for nonsense disappears. And that separation can feel lonely. But loneliness is not the enemy. Stagnation is. Being surrounded by people who don't challenge you will slowly shrink you. So if you feel alone right now, ask yourself, am I lonely or am I just no longer distracted? Because distraction keeps people busy, not fulfilled. And you didn't choose this path to stay busy. You chose it to become better. And better requires sacrifice. Sacrifice of comfort. Sacrifice of sleep. Sacrifice of excuses. And sometimes, sacrifice of relationships that only existed for convenience. They adjust. They study themselves. They ask hard questions like, where am I being lazy? Where am I avoiding discomfort? Where am I lying to myself? And those questions hurt, but avoidance hurts longer. See, at this level, you stop trying to look disciplined, and you become disciplined. No announcements, no social media declarations. Just work, quiet, focused, relentless. And that kind of work changes your posture. You walk differently. You speak less. You listen more. Because when you're locked in, noise becomes irrelevant. You don't need everyone to understand your journey. You need to stay committed to it. Let people misunderstand you. Let them doubt you. Let them underestimate you. You're not building for applause. You're building for results. And results speak a language everyone understands. But here's the part nobody prepares you for. As you grow, you will outgrow people. Not because you think you're better, but because your standards changed. Your conversations change. Your priorities change. Your tolerance for nonsense disappears. And that separation can feel lonely. But loneliness is not the enemy. Stagnation is. Being surrounded by people who don't challenge you will slowly shrink you. So if you feel alone right now, ask yourself, am I lonely or am I just no longer distracted? Because distraction keeps people busy, not fulfilled. And you didn't choose this path to stay busy. You chose it to become better. And better requires sacrifice. Sacrifice of comfort. Sacrifice of sleep. Sacrifice of excuses. And sometimes, sacrifice of relationships that only existed for convenience. To feel ready. You never will. Start acting like the person you claim you want to become. Because every day you delay, you're voting against your future. And every day you show up disciplined, you're voting for it. Choose wisely. Not once. Not sometimes. Daily. Because discipline is not a phase. It's a lifestyle. And once you choose it, there's no going back. Only forward.